while Andrew I live great. Hey, hey. You stand up on the platform, smile wide and proud. I tell we about prosperity, but we can't see it all now. Hurricane come through and left the people bare. 6 months later, them still out there, asleep under the air. Their GLP friends them build high rise, road still full of wood. A house pocket to a field, while the nation lose its soul. Hospital overflow, picnic can't get bed. School roof a leak, but you and Julian well fed. You always have excuse, always pass the blame. 10 years, you say. 10 years and look out to make us still. No light, no road, no food pan we plate. People are suffer, while Andrew I live great. Hey, hey. You stand up on the platform, smile wide and proud. I tell we about prosperity, but we can't see it all now. Hurricane come through and left the people bare. 6 months later, them still out there, asleep under the air. Their GLP friends them build high rise, road still full of wood. A house pocket to a field, while the nation lose its soul. Hospital overflow, picnic can't get bed. School roof a leak, but you and Julian well fed. You always have excuse, always pass the blame. Every time something wrong, it never go in your name. Jamaica got drowned and you claim you're unclean. Biggest actor in the politics we ever see. Everybody, the people, we say no. 10 years and we can't take no more. You know hear us. We are not on the door. Boldness, time to go, time to go. From Kingston to Negril, the people say so. We tired, we hungry, we done really show. Boldness and time to go. Farmer can't afford to plant, food price reach the sky. You bring in the poverty while your own people cry. We born ya, we grow ya, we bleed for this land. But Andrew at the top out extend the man. You talk about vision, you talk about plan, but 10 years later we still can't understand. Corruption report London, nobody charge. The people pocket small but the scandal them large. Roads crack up parish council bro. Country suffocate and it just smoke. And when we raise the voice so call we political, but the truth is the truth and the truth is biblical.
Oh yes, time to go.
Time to go. The people,
Yes and no.
we say no. 10 years and we can't take no more. You know hear us. We are not on the door.
Oh yes, time to go.
Time to go. From Kingston to Negril, the people say so. We tired, we hungry, we done with the show. All this our time to go. We no want no hype, we no want no speech. We want action, no, not the lies you preach. Hurricane victims still under tarpaulin. Prime Minister fly gone foreign. Your JLP cabinet full, but the people cupboard empty. Oh, you live so large when we live in so scanty. Not with fists, not with fire, but with voice them rising higher and higher. From every parish, every yard, every gate, Jamaica speaking and I'm not too late.
Oh yes, time to go.
Time to go. The people,
Yes and no.
we say no. 10 years and we can't take no more. You know hear us. We are not on the door.
Oh yes, time to go.
Time to go. From Kingston to Negril, the people say so. We tired, we hungry, we done with the show. Oh yes, our time to go. This one is for every Jamaican. We can't afford feet. We are sleep on cardboard. We are drive on broken road. The people don't forget. The people don't forgive. Enough is enough. Jamaicans will live.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is what we come here to talk about. Enough is enough. The people them still are not appalling. People them still are suffer. And nobody is being unreasonable. We are not gullible. The government cannot, in their current state, fix all the problems. But if it was a caring government and a strategic government, then at least the most vulnerable would be targeted with precision to be helped expeditiously, quickly. You know, not 9 months after a correction on the fly. It says 11 months, it should be 9 months, right? But as I've been doing, which is now a trend on the platform, I open the Bible randomly and the verse or the chapter that I get to, I read before I start the live. And this is Ezekiel chapter 14. It's called to turn from idols. Very interesting because, you know, the places that have been decimated by Hurricane Melissa, the prophets has revealed that in those areas a lot of persons are engaging in witchcraft. St. James, Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, a lot of persons that engage in, to the point where when the argument about parity came up, I remember I was watching Andrea and he alluded to the same. And people from the area, and I'm not targeting parity, I'm just saying confirmation of what the prophet spoke about in terms of these places that are heavily engaged in witchcraft. Obviously the message is for individuals to turn away from that type of activity. But the word here says that, and repent. The word here says that, then came certain of the elders of Israel unto me and sat before me. Again, Ezekiel 14. And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, these men have set up their idols in their heart, and put stumbling blocks on their iniquity before their face. Should I be inquired of at all by them? Therefore speak unto them and say unto them, Thus saith the Lord God, every man of the house of Israel that setteth upon his idol in his heart, and putteth the stumbling block of his iniquity before his face, and cometh to the prophet, I the Lord will answer him that cometh according to the multitude of his idol, that I may take the house of Israel in their own heart, because they are all estranged from me through their idols. Therefore say unto the house of Israel, Thus saith the Lord God, Repent and turn yourself from your idols, and turn away your face from all your abomination. For everyone of the house of Israel, or the stranger that sojourneth in Israel, which separated himself from me, and set up his idols in his heart, and putteth the stumbling blocks of his iniquity before his face, and cometh to the prophet to inquire of him concerning me, I the Lord will answer him by myself, and I will set my face against that man, and will make him a sign and a proverb. I will cut him off from the midst of my people, and ye shall know that I am the Lord. And if the prophet be deceived when he hath spoken a thing, I the Lord have deceived that prophet, and I will stretch out my hand upon him, and will destroy him from the midst of my people Israel. And they shall bear the punishment of their iniquity. The punishment of the prophet shall be even as the punishment of him that seeketh unto him, that the house of Israel may go no more astray from me, neither be polluted any more with all their transgressions. But that they may be my people, and I may be their God, saith the Lord. The word of the Lord came again to me, saying, Son of man, when the land sinneth against me by trespassing grievously, then will I stretch out my hand upon it, and will break the staff of bread therefore, mighty God, and will send famine upon it, and will cut off man and beast from it. Jamaica, all of the things that we are going with, we don't hear the prophecy about famine. Is the witchcraft. See, the Bible here confirm it. This is Ezekiel 14 and stuff like that period. You understand? It goes down to say that these three men were in it, and as I live, saith the Lord God, they shall deliver neither sons nor daughters. They only shall be delivered, but the land shall be desolate. Or if I bring a sword upon the land and say, sword, go through the land, so that I cut off man and beast from it. Though these three men were in it, as I live, saith the Lord God, they shall deliver neither sons nor daughters, but they only shall be delivered themselves. You hear that? So you can't save no son and daughter, you know. Them have to repent. Funny, me and my mother just not talk about something similar to that. Or if I send a pestilence into that land, and pour out my fury upon it in blood, to cut off from it man and beast. Though, verse 20 says, though Noah, Daniel, and Jacob were in it, I live, saith the Lord God. They shall deliver neither son nor daughter. They shall but deliver their own souls by their righteousness. For thus saith the Lord God, how much more when I send my four sore judgments upon Jerusalem, the sword and the famine, and the noisome beast and pestilence, to cut off from it man and beast. Yet behold, therein shall be left remnant that shall be brought forth, both sons and daughters. Behold, they shall come forth unto you, and ye shall see their way and their doings, and ye shall be comforted concerning the evil that I have brought upon Israel, even concerning all that I have brought upon it. And they shall comfort you when ye see their ways and their doings, and ye shall know that I have not done without cause all that I have done in it, saith the Lord God. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. So, what me I get from this, ladies and gentlemen, is that God is showing you that He's a just God. And the judgment that comes upon the land is not without cause. And in terms of Jamaica, we guys have got many warnings, but we refuse to listen. You understand? And there's going to be consequences for that. So utilize the time. You understand? Like use right now. Don't procrastinate. Mother asked them to make hay while the sun shines. You see me? So repent while you have opportunity, ladies and gentlemen. If you are indeed guilty of any of these particular sins, or any sin for that matter in terms of witchcraft. Alright? Let's get into the content, ladies and gentlemen. The PAC meeting, I did not have a chance to listen to it, so I am going to be doing some probing right now to ascertain what took place. Let's get into it. And this has to do with Hurricane Melissa, obviously.
Internationally as well, those broadcasts are still accessible to members of the public. We also have a workshop that we have done earlier this year to cater specifically to the data protection officers to help to build their capacity by calling on the expertise from seasoned practitioners within the country. But throughout, we have had different programs tailored towards engaging the public and informing them regarding data protection, whether these are...
Oh, by the way, guys, please remember to share the video with at least 10 people here. Share it on your WhatsApp channel, share it in the groups that you are in. Please and thanks. Alright? It helps the platform. So be an ambassador and share with at least 10 people. Thank you very much.
Events and activities that have been initiated by the OIC, or events and activities that we work together with third parties in order to promote and facilitate data protection. Currently, for example, for this year, because we recognize that privacy is something that you have to ingraining persons, you have to build as a culture. We have looked at focusing on instilling a respect for privacy in our youth so that they grow up knowing that data protection is always to be a consideration in all their activities, both personal and professional. And so our national initiative for this year involves a school tour that will see us engage in.
I understand, and you have indicated that staffing is a principal reason for the suspension. Is that the case?
No, it is a twofold issue. They have to go hand in hand. So on the one hand, there is the upgrade that is being done to the system to facilitate the online payments in order to prevent us compounding the existing issue of a backlog of registration, and as well as an accumulation of fees that are not fully and finally accounted for. The second part of it is, well, the staffing issue would relate to that second part.
So it's staffing and your computer database, that's what you're saying?
Not the database,
your payment system.
Yes.
In another forum, I had gathered that there were some enabling regulations that were still outstanding that would give further effect to the effectiveness of the Office of the Information Commissioner. Is that still an issue, or that has been cleared?
Well, I'm not sure the specific forum that you mentioned. The Act does provide for various regulations, ministerial orders, as well as for the OIC to issue guidance and directives as to how exactly the Act is supposed to be implemented and how data controllers are to comply. So in any regulatory system, ideally, all those things would need to be in place for it to be fully and properly functional.
Are they in place?
It is a work in progress. As you may be aware, we are less than 5 years old, and whereas you do have some legislation that has been passed for years without any regulation being passed under them to give them proper effect, the Data Protection Act has already seen the passing of 3 pieces of supporting regulations. So in that regard, we are significantly advanced as compared to other regulations locally, as well as compared to some other jurisdictions where either act has not been passed or it has been passed but given no effect, or given effect without any regulations in place. So is there additional regulations or orders that would need to be made? Yes, and it is anticipated that those would be done over time as the jurisdiction and the regime matures.
All right. You mentioned September in terms of your the return of the platform to allow for companies, because I was once seated in the private sector, and we were highly frustrated in terms of even boards and private sector boards have been charged with ensuring that persons are held accountable.
We provide every support the Information Commissioner requires of us. Obviously, she has her own mandate, but where she needs our input. So, for example, she mentioned earlier that the Ministry's principal financial officer, and already we have several shared services, that principal financial officer is made available to assist her. I can tell you the Information Commissioner wanted to go it on her own with that when she got someone temporarily in, and we guided that we can still provide her with the support of the principal financial officer until she's sure she has someone stable in that post. Similarly, when she proposed that she could try with a consultant in order not to extend the period, she has the support for that. Obviously, the compensation for the consultant would have to be approved by Ministry of Finance. But because it comes under a different regime, we are fairly confident that we'll get the support of the Ministry of Finance in that regard. Also, I've supported her initiative to do some more restructuring, looking at her structures, because the approach is taken, and Chairman did mention earlier that an entity like the TIU could assist, but generally they like if the entity itself do a review, make some recommendations, and then they can see if it's appropriate. And I have supported the Information Commissioner in her desire to also get someone to look at her structure. So we are
enforcement provisions, the penalties, that element of the law which would bring that into effect is not yet operationalized. So at this point, we're talking about voluntary compliance. And realistically, laws generally do not operate retroactively under our constitutional arrangements. So is there any recourse for persons currently under the current law, which if their data is exposed, particularly in a way that adversely affects their banking information, their personal security, things like that, do they have recourse under this law now, civil action, to cause breaches, to at least be able to seek compensation for breaches of the responsibility of the data controllers?
Yes. The provision or creation of certain offenses, criminal offenses under the DPA, did not in any way abrogate or suspend the rights that persons have as individuals to redress. And so the pursuit of civil action and redress in the form of compensation or otherwise through the courts is still available to any aggrieved and affected data subject. The other thing that persons need to be mindful of is that the nature of data privacy and protection, and particularly the risks and threats that affect it, are such that it's not limited to the DPA in terms of the possible implications or liability. And so what you find is, for example, a large number of data breaches result from issues with users, things that are internal to organizations. And persons must be mindful that in that regard, insofar as they might constitute any kind of misconduct or other wrongful action within an employment context, any data controller still has their various approaches to treat with that as against a responsible employee, and those actions can still be taken and should be taken. Now, outside of that, you can also look at the fact that much of the manifestations of these risks and threats result from some type of cybersecurity incident. Now, in that regard, there are cybercrimes that may come into play that can be otherwise prosecuted regardless of the data privacy issue under the DPA. And so the fact that the enforcement provisions in the DPA are...
I wonder if the Amber Group, them really are talk about, and the whole fact say the company own the website. Now I wonder if I them are talk about data protection. But let's continue.
Not yet in effect does not mean that there is a free-for-all for data controllers to operate as they deem fit and disregard the rights and interests of data subjects, because there is action that can be taken whether by the data controller as against, as I said, a culpable employee. There are actions that can be taken, for example, by representative associations and bodies. So just to give an example, in relation to attorneys at law, since the coming into effect of the Data Protection Act, the General Legal Council and the Jamaica Bar Association have gone at length to advocate the need for attorneys to ensure their compliance, because non-compliance with the DPA can constitute a breach of certain canons of ethics for attorneys. And this is a similar case for other professional organizations as well that have their own code of conduct or canons that persons, members have to follow. And so there are consequences where your failure to comply with the DPA in any way can constitute misconduct in a professional respect for which you can be penalized. And this is in addition to, as I said, any criminal offenses that may be constituted for the action leading to the breach. So persons do need to be mindful of that.
Two more questions, Mr. Chairman. Well, really one more for the Commissioner, but I'd like the Permanent Secretary to answer to my first observation, or to respond to my first observation about a lack of prioritization of getting this office functional, fully functional. But for Ms. Barclay, there was a lot of, let me just say, confusion or misunderstanding when this act was originally, when it came into effect, that many persons who were making information requests.
Access to information.
Sorry?
Access to information requests.
Access to information, thank you. They were making access to information requests from various government agencies, were being denied that information because of concerns related to the Data Protection Act. And I know I read at the time in the media that you made a statement to the effect that that was incorrect, that was an incorrect interpretation by those agencies.
In fact, I think there was a matter that came here probably 2 years ago, and the MDA had made that observation, and you're correct, I think the OIC clarified it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I was wondering, since that, it was two agencies, I remember, one came here, but there were two agencies that had used it at the time as the reasons to not respond to the access to information, at least. Have you had some sort of familiarization, training for these ministries, departments, and agencies to help them understand that the Data Protection Act is not an effective is not a gag clause, so to speak, or one that renders that neuters the Access to Information Act?
I know we have worked together with the ATI unit at some point with respect to a sensitization session. We have done in the past, I believe, some form of publication, whether through our social media site or otherwise, regarding it. We have also spoken at other activities by MDs that address the issue of.
We're looking possibly at a review now of the Act to really step up the education on this for persons to understand exactly what it is that we're trying to do and how we're trying to protect the Jamaican citizens.
For me, final question, you had raised before the lack of the enforcement, either regulations or I don't know if it's legislation required. Could you just enlighten us on what is required to move to that enforcement stage and whether that is part of the phasing in? Just that specific question on enforcement. And when.
So the enforcement of any legislation requires, first and foremost, the act of bringing the relevant sections into effect. That is what I would call the easy part. The reality is, for enforcement to be effective, then you need to have the necessary frameworks in place for you to carry it out. And so there is an enablement and an empowerment that needs to take place with respect to all the parties, all the participants within the regime. So as it relates to the OIC, definitely there is some amount of work that needs to be done for us to be in a position to fully and properly exercise those powers. And that includes some amount of capacity building in relation to the staff. It does include in terms of, again, having the necessary ICT infrastructure in place to enable us to operate with efficiency in carrying out those actions. It will involve in terms of having the necessary arrangements in place to give effect to the interactions between us and other persons within the enforcement procedure. It also would require, outside of OIC, as I said, having other parties ready. So there is the JCF, which if these are criminal offences, who would need to be very much aware and educated as to what constitutes an offence and how to approach it in terms of laying charges. There is the judiciary that has to be ready and able to deal with DPA offences, which would be new to it. There is, for example, the Dispute Resolution Foundation. What a lot of persons don't know, the Act actually does speak to and provide for mediation of disputes as between data subjects and data controllers. So persons have to be not just educated but trained in how to treat with data protection offences when they do arise. So persons are pushing for enforcement, and the easiest thing would be to
financial service provider or financial service institution that is referred to by the Auditor General in his report. Please answer the question. For me. But the first question is
$640 US. GCT 423,000 Jamaican dollars.
Okay.
All right, go ahead, Commander.
The last matter here, Chair, is concerning the verification of the status of food items, tarpaulins, and water via approximately $60 million, which was not recorded in on-premise inventory. We do have the evidence, and that was shared late this morning concerning the inventory records in our accounting system. So those matters would have been recorded into our accounting system as indicated earlier.
Okay. All right. I have two follow-up questions from last week in relation to the Support Jamaica website. When a donor, for example, somebody decides to...
Into our accounting system as indicated earlier.
Okay. All right. I have two follow-up questions from last week in relation to the Support Jamaica website. When a donor, for example, somebody decides to give money via their credit card, let's say somebody comes on the site, decides to give $100. Which account does that $100 go into?
So the processing of that matter goes through a sub-merchant agreement that we have with our financial institution. Those monies, whether they be Jamaican dollars or US currency, goes into ODPEM owned accounts at a financial institution that we have an arrangement with or have bank accounts with.
All right. The partner, the telecoms, the technology provider, who is the partner, is there a charge to the government of Jamaica per transaction that is done?
And you're speaking to the platform provider?
Yes, the platform provider.
This is, as mentioned, we have access to this for a year, royalty free.
Okay, so there are zero charges, and all monies donated go directly into ODPM accounts, not to a provider, then the provider sends it to you.
the financial service institution, there are the necessary charges that would come out of the amounts.
What would those be? For example, those are transaction charges?
Transaction charges. Transaction charges. There was the issue concerning, as indicated in the report, the matter of holdback for overcharges, any matters concerning fraudulent concerns on accounts and so on. That matter, all the monies have now been transmitted to us, and we are working with the provider to come to an amicable agreement over the withholding of funds, if necessary. That should be in place.
When you say provider here, you're talking about the
financial service,
the financial institution.
Indeed.
Okay.
I don't know if the Commander Gale answered, well, I didn't hear it clearly. So the chairman asked if all of the monies went into ODPEM related accounts. Just for clarity.
All the monies have gone into ODPEM related accounts.
Okay.
Okay. All right, members, are there any follow-up questions? We're now going to the substantive matter. It's taken us a little while, but, Mr. McAdam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to follow up on the question you asked, the response is actually in the report before us today in relation to the charges associated with donations. So based on the evidence available to us, there's a 3.9% commission that is charged, plus GCT that is charged by the financial services institution. And in addition to that, there are also transaction fees. So if you look in the report that is before us today, there's actually a table in the appendix with the gross donations, the commissions, the GCT, and the transaction fees outlined in that table, in the appendix to the report, Appendix 1. That's the 16.1 million is the amount that was withheld. Right? That's separate from the...
Oh, that's separate from the charges.
Separate from the charges.
So, okay, so my question, following up on what you say then, when we report, for example, of, I think it is 1.4 billion that would have been donated, is that a gross figure or is that a net figure?
That's the net.
That's a net figure having accounted. So, is there a specific figure on the, apart from the 16 million in dispute, of what constitutes the total charges so far?
Right, as I indicated, it's in the appendix.
Well, if you can help us, because we may not have it in front of us, just if you could indicate what that figure is in terms of those charges.
Okay, so based on the report, up to February 2026, the gross donations received was 72.4 million Jamaican dollars and 1.4 million US dollars. The commissions charged was 2.8 million Jamaican dollars and 55,640 US dollars. GCT 423,000 Jamaican dollars, 8,346 US dollars. Transaction charges 182,000 Jamaican dollars, 3,214 US dollars. And the amounts withheld as at that date was 16.1 million Jamaican dollars and 309,000 US dollars.
My question to ODPM, acknowledging that at the outset you wouldn't have been able to do this because we had an emergency, but have you done any comparison to determine whether the arrangements with the financial institutions are the best that the government can get in terms of the percentage charge, etc., at this point in time?
We are undertaking that now, Chairman. But we have not gone the way of changing the financial services institution as yet.
Well, I think, even though you haven't, you should do a little shopping around and find out whether you can get something more attractive, given the nature of this, the website, and the fact that this is something that you want to continue to encourage persons to participate in perpetuity, because we will always have the possibility of future events. And so it's important that government is getting the best arrangement, even though, as I said, we would have been obligated at the outset, given the emergency, to make a decision on a financial institution. But it's important to know that we're getting the best possible arrangement here.
Just a clarification from the Auditor General. I'm trying to reconcile the figures you just gave, and unfortunately I don't have the appendix in front of me, but on the prompt, on a key finding 1, it said ODPEM had received approximately 1.44 billion in cash donations, and then you went on to break out Jamaican and US, but it didn't seem to add up
to the 1.44
billion, and you were talking as of February, both are as of February.
Get out there! That nigga, get out there!
You spoke to GCT, which I assume
To the 1.4.
to the 1.44 billion in cash donations. And then you went on to break out Jamaica and US. But it didn't seem to add up
To the 1.4.
to the 1.44 billion. And you were talking as of February, both are as of February. The second thing is you spoke to GCT, which I assume would only be the GCT on the fees charged by the financial institutions. Because I don't think GCT would be charged on a cash donation per se. So I'm assuming that the GCT, so I'm just asking you to clarify that for me. But the first question is, the figures didn't seem to add up to the 1.44 billion.
Right, so that 1.4 represent donations through the Support Jamaica website as well as direct deposits to the account.
Okay.
So donors were able to make deposits directly to the AdPen bank account
So
rather
that,
than going through the Support Jamaica.
okay, so that would not have attracted the 3.9%.
No, because it is going directly to
So the
bank account
3.9% is donations made by credit cards, I assume?
through the Support Jamaica website. All donations through the Support Jamaica website attract the 3.9% commission.
So that's like
Plus
a vendor discount on the credit card. I'm trying to understand, what is the 3.9%? It's charged by
It's
the
charged by the financial services institution.
banks, so to
No,
speak.
well, it's not a bank in this case.
It's
It's
not
a
a bank?
payment, is like
It's a
Stripe
payment
or
portal,
one of
yes.
those.
So AdPen can explain the agreement in terms of the partners, but the financial services institution would be responsible for processing the collections and then transferring the monies to AdPen's bank account.
That's why I asked you the question where, maybe I should, one second, I should repeat. If somebody goes on the site, wants to give $100 with a credit card, but you said it goes straight to AdPen's bank account, not to a third party.
Well, there would be a provision, and I'd have to just double check here, Chair. They will hold whatever money is required and then send the rest of the money directly to us.
That's what I thought. That's why I asked you the question, because generally, whoever the provider is holds it, takes their fees, and then sends to you the net amount. That's why I asked you, well, can you tell us who the provider is then?
So this is the LASCO Financial Services Institution. I don't want to call the name wrong, but it is provided through LASCO.
Which you don't want to call them.
Okay, but this is
Hold on, Mr.
secret.
Chairman. The Auditor General typically does not name names in their report, but when the specifics are asked in this committee, the names are given. It's not a secret. You can't provide oversight if you are hiding stuff from us. So the chairman asked, who is the financial service provider or financial service institution? That is. But when the specifics are asked in this committee, the names are given. It's not a secret. You can't provide oversight if you are hiding stuff from us. So the chairman asked, who is the financial service provider or financial service institution that is referred to by the Auditor General in his report? Please answer the question.
So to repeat, Chairman, the LASCO Financial Services Limited.
Okay. So we have
LASCO Financial Services Limited. LASCO Financial Services Limited. Ladies and gentlemen, why is it that AdPen appears to be not confident, especially when this man is talking? Why it appears to be they are not confident in answering these critical questions where accountability and oversight is concerned? I don't know about you, but it bothers me. It bothers me. Ladies and gentlemen, please share the live. Share the live. Share the live. Share the... Oh my God.
have an arrangement then with them to process transactions through the website. They collect the money initially. They would take their fees and then remit the net amount to the ODPM account. Is that the arrangement?
That is the arrangement, Chair. But if we look at the report as well, there was also some withholding of some amounts for chargebacks.
So that would be in a case, so we keep it simple. Somebody use a credit card, send $100, but then you find out that that credit card
the dispute
there. So the chargeback would, or the holding up the, is it 16 or 18 million? 16.1 would represent cases like that.
Or the amounts that they would have presumed to cover in these cases.
Or the amounts what?
They would have calculated to cover the large amounts given what they were taking in. As we could understand, this was significantly more than perhaps what they would have been collecting on other platforms. hence the amount that was held back for chargebacks and such like. We have subsequently had conversations around the modalities of that occurring, and cause for us to enter into very separate discussions regarding amounts and times for holdbacks. But as it is now, we're not engaging in a process of holding back.
All right, so just so I'm clear, because I'm not sure if I followed you carefully, how close are we to resolving the 16.1 million, which is in dispute?
Well, those monies are not in dispute, Chair. We do have those monies in our bank accounts.
Oh, they are in your bank accounts. Okay, so they're not being withheld then?
Not being withheld.
Okay. And based on, I would say, just rough math, probably 95% of the funds which came into ODPM, or 90, would have been through direct deposits to your account. Because if you have 1.4 billion and only 72 million J plus 1.4, maybe about 80, a little lower. The majority of the funds, vast majority, would have come through direct deposits, which makes more sense to ODPM, but for the donor, they would have to pay the fees on certainly sending the wire transfer fees. Let me ask you, is ODPM charged a fee on the receipt of those funds through the wire transfers? Because in many cases, if somebody sends a wire to an individual, they both pay a sending fee and then the recipient also pays an equivalent fee. So are you being charged by the institution when those funds reach your accounts?
No, Chair, we're not being charged.
Are you sure about that?
Based on the information that we have, we're not being charged.
Okay, all right. All right, I'm going to go just, members, I'm using the prompts provided by the Auditor General's Department, and I'll just go finding by finding, and if...
Peter Bone didn't get more than the Adpem General, like you know, so brother, when they come in the committee here, this is about oversight. You have to answer the question. Answer the question.
Members have questions. The key finding number 1, low utilization of donated disaster relief funds for Hurricane Melissa and Beryl. The Hurricane Beryl did not expended. When would ODPM be in a position to fulfill this requirement?
Just to confirm, Chair, we're speaking in terms of monies collected for Hurricane Beryl.
Yes, yeah. I'm just looking at the, all right, I'm on, for members, this is the briefing report. I don't know if you have a copy.
No, Chair, we don't.
Can we just, so that you can follow us, do we have any extras there that we could just give Commander so you can follow us? So I'm on page 3 of the report. Under verification, at the bottom. So for Hurricane Melissa, it said you presented a schedule showing expenditure, blah, blah, blah. But then for Hurricane Beryl, it says you are yet to present records of total funds collected or expended. At the bottom of page 3.
So for Hurricane Beryl, we should be able to indicate the bank records for those donated. What I'll indicate, to the best of our knowledge, no money was expended from the funds donated for Hurricane Beryl. And I believe we had indicated such in previous answers to the actual report.
Okay. But Auditor General, Mr. McAdam, you would be awaiting what? Just proof of that? Is that what your comment on the verification would indicate?
Right, Chair. So we did not see how many, in terms of donations for Beryl, we did not get any evidence to substantiate the total donations. Unlike Melissa, we were able to go on and see how much was collected.
Oh, you're given a figure, but you want the documentation
right,
to substantiate it.
Right,
okay.
right.
So, sorry, hello?
Chair, so we will be able to provide that. And bank statements and so on to support that matter.
Okay.
Hold on, so what you tell me, say? From Hurricane Beryl, the money not have the documentation. So there's a gray area there from Hurricane Beryl where money could potentially be stolen. No, me could listen that again. Me could listen. Hey, mama. Boy.
But Auditor General, Mr. McAdam, you would be awaiting what? Just proof of that? Is that what your comment on the verification would indicate?
Right, Chair. So we did not see how many, in terms of donations for Beryl, we did not get any evidence to substantiate the total donations. Unlike Melissa, we were able to go on and see how much was.
Jamaica, on you hear that? They did not get any evidence to substantiate the total amount of money that them say them get from Berry. Not my word, them play it again. Them play it again.
So we did not see how many, in terms of donations for burial, we did not get any evidence to substantiate the total donations. Unlike Melissa, we were able to go on and see how much was collected.
Oh, you're given a figure, but you want the documentation
Right,
to substantiate it.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Chair, so we will be able to provide that. And bank statements and so on to support that matter.
Okay.
So ADPEM said they will be able to provide that. My question is, what's up, Cali? How you doing, darling? Why, and me see you earlier, but when you come in later, you drop a comment in the last slide. Pick up yourself on Bolo TBV. When you want to go over the People's National Party Conference. But the people on Bolo VNR clips, check out the videos that I have dropped on Bolo VNR clips. People on Bolo VNR 2.0, check out the videos that I have dropped. The video uploads, please check them out. There's 1 and 2 videos that I share on both platforms, but from the other day I've been putting out exclusive video uploads on both platforms. That means it's exclusive to that platform. You won't find it on the other platform. Most of them now from the last couple of days has been exclusively for the platform. So you have to subscribe to all of my pages, ladies and gentlemen. I keep telling you. Subscribe to all of my YouTube pages. And the link to all of my YouTube pages is in every single YouTube page bio. So if you go on Bolo VNR 2.0, you're going to see the link to the other three channels. If you go to Bolo VNR, you're going to see the link to the other 3 channels. If you go to Bolo VNR, click the same. And if you go to Bolo VNR, Bolo TBV, you see the same thing. And for the persons on TikTok, subscribe to my YouTube channel. The link is in the bio of my TikTok. That is Bolo VNR 2.0. And then from there, you can go to the other channels. And remember the live goal, ladies and gentlemen. Please help out with the live goal. Alright? God bless you in advance. Let's continue. This is mightily interesting. The man say have the documentation. And I hope that they follow up on this, because we need to get the documentation for Hurricane Berry, the bank statements and everything, to verify if the money that they said they collected was the actual money. Well, you know, that cannot happen, you know. No talk say we need self-governing parishes and leave Andrew for most operational decisions. That will not happen under the Jamaica Labour Party. They have no intention of, you know, leaving control up to the people. And that example of that is the gerrymandering attempts that is happening in Portmore still. You know, it is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. Hi, Joanne Sinclair. How you doing, my darling? Big up yourself. Let's continue, guys.
The key finding number 2, donated funds retained by financial services institution without a formal agreement. When I look at I'm on page 4 now, just so you can follow. It says a formal agreement for the retention of funds was still not in place. Where are we in terms of formalizing that agreement?
So we have any discussions, I believe, Chair, I still don't put a time where I think we should be able to conquer this issue in just under a month. But as it is indicated here, the monies which were the point of query have been lodged into our accounts as of March this year, and we're having discussions around those points.
Okay. Key finding number 3, this is a National Disaster Fund statement of accounts and annual report not prepared. And again, I'm looking under verification. Timeline for completion of required audited statements and annual report for NDF was not provided. Who would, in this case, Mr. McAdam, they would have to engage private auditors to do this audited report? Who would do this audited statements?
So, Mr. Chair, under the Act, it is actually the Minister who would be responsible for appointing an auditor.
Which Minister? Finance?
Minister of Finance.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, so the Minister of Finance would need to appoint an auditor to do the audit of the
audit, yes.
Okay. So that is something, Commander, that you need to have dialogue with the Financial Secretary for that to be addressed.
I Chair, this matter will be treated with through the NDF committee, which is now in place to have the auditors appointed.
What we would like to know is a time frame for, you'd obviously have to consult with the NDF, but a time frame for when that audit would be done.
I would have to revert, Chair.
Yeah, I know, I expect you to. Sorry, I see Member Miller, your mic is on.
Yes, Chair, you moved a little fast.
Sorry, I didn't
Just
see.
now,
Yes, sorry.
I wanted to find out if a formal agreement is now executed with the financial services institution. I went back to finding number 2, where the Auditor General pointed out that there was no formal agreement for the retention of funds.
So, through you, Chair, there was always a formal agreement with the FSI. There was never a formal arrangement concerning the retention of funds. And what I indicated just previously was that we are now in the discussions around that, and I expected that within perhaps a month we should be able to conclude on that, and then where required, adjust, if necessary, the current agreement with the merchant.
So there was no, in that formal agreement with the financial services institution, there was no clause to say the amount you're supposed to retain. Am I correct?
No, there wasn't, not prescriptive to the matters of chargebacks.
Very well.
I would say, before you formalize that, I think it would be important to find out what other institutions are providing and what their charges are to ensure that you are in fact getting the best possible deal given the nature of this type of activity and the fact that you want to retain as much of the funds as possible. Sorry, go ahead, Member Miller.
Can ODPEM also confirm that all the funds collected is now in the government's account?
Yes, ma'am. Relevant to the necessary accounting charge and so on, all the monies are now in our accounts.
Sorry. Yes, Member Bunton.
While we're still on prompt 2.
You can go, yeah.
I'm a little puzzled at this original proposed 45-day time frame to retain 30% of all donations. What's the logic of that? I mean, now, in the old days, you used to have to wait for checks to clear and so on. But
sorry. Yes, Member Bunton.
While we're still on prompt 2.
You can go, yeah.
I'm a little puzzled at this original proposed 45-day time frame to retain 30% of all donations. What's the logic of that? I mean, now, in the old days, you used to have to wait for checks to clear and so on, but these are all predominantly electronic transactions, which might have at most a 1-day delay. Why was there proposed a 45-day time frame to retain 30% of all donations? I'm trying to understand the logic for that.
Chair, I wouldn't presume to speak on behalf of the institution. This was something that was sent to the previous finance officer in an email. I can't recall that they would have provided the explicit reasons behind it. I could go down the road of some assumptions around it, but I'd probably want not to, Chairman.
So what's the current agreement in terms of the time frame for retention of funds and what percentage?
There's currently no agreement around that matter, Chair. Operationally, based on our discussions, we have suspended that matter until we come to some formal agreement.
But let's say there is a hurricane, God forbid, next week. What would happen?
Based on what currently obtains, less the necessary accounting fees, we will get the funds.
So this is not in effect then, this 45-day hold of 30%?
No, Chair, this is not in effect.
No, but there's no agreement in effect. So, as I understand it.
There's no agreement around the retention of funds in effect.
So if there's no agreement, then it could very well revert to the 45-day time frame. What I'm saying is...
It's very generous to the provider.
It's a very generous arrangement.
To the provider.
To the provider.
Not to the government.
Let me reframe this then. Why would you not have an agreement that compels the provider to make the funds available within a very short period of time? And I would think that would be a matter of a few days, not 45 days, certainly not a week. I mean, you know, you have RTGS, you have ACH, none of these things take a protracted period of time. Banks are phasing out checks altogether. So I don't understand why there's this long retention period. This reminds me of days when I just joined banking and a foreign check took 30 days to clear. But there's no justification for this in modern times.
To you again, Chair. So this is the matter we're trying to quickly round out and to make operational.
I would like you to revert back to the committee in writing on two things. One is having done a scan of the environment of other institutions to determine what the best offer is, and then to indicate what agreement you end up with. Because I understand doing something in an emergency, but certainly reflecting on this is not beneficial to ODPM, the government, or the people of Jamaica, or the donors, for any institution to have a hold of 30% of your funds for 45 days. In this environment, I can't see any justification for that whatsoever.
Noted, Chair.
Yes,
Chair.
Member.
Ladies and gentlemen, big up Peter Bunty and big up the chair, Mr. Julian Robinson. In an emergency, when persons need money, to go to the people that need it, because they are giving it from their heart and they want the people to get it as soon as possible. 45 days? Who came up with this agreement? What is this? When I heard it, the first thing that came to my mind, and I'm not saying that this is what is happening, but I'm telling you what came to my mind. That type of money sitting into a certain account for 45 days helps the provider. And persons that are in banking understand that the longer money stays into an account, the more the banking institution can use it for their own, how would I put this, wealth growth. That's why banks don't like when they take out money out of their account. They lend your money to other people. Hello, somebody. 30% of $1.44 billion. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. So that's what came to my mind. Alright? Here where's the message.
Chair, I want also to, on your same point of the 45 days transfer period, if I'm looking at these dates, it went further of an 83 additional days. So there was a 45 days for time frame to retain that 30%, but also it went further than that, an additional 83 additional days. What is the explanation for ODPEM's failure to enforce that agreed 45 days? Because the institution would be holding that 30%, while there are persons out there that ODPEM could help, and they're holding onto that money for an additional 85 days.
The explanation redounds to what would have been an administrative oversight in the matter, and the necessary steps have been put in place to ensure that we're accurately tracking the funds to the extent that we now have all those funds in our accounts. Changes have been made in the department to cause for us to have significantly more oversight in these particular matters.
Let me ask, just on that, what is the verification process on your part to determine that 50 donations of $100 were made through the provider? Are you in a position to independently verify that from whatever the provider indicates to you?
Yes, Chair, we are able to independently verify the relevant amounts that should be coming to us.
Okay. And you have, whether it is monthly, quarterly reconciliation process with the provider to determine, that X amount should have been remitted and that is actually what you have received?
So we have started that process and we are doing that on a monthly basis as we speak, Chair.
Okay. Members, anything else? Okay, Member Miller.
Yes, Chair. It boggles my mind. Why is it the Auditor General could not confirm the ODPEM's bank account number for the funds that were transferred? Why is it the account numbers were not reflected for the funds transferred from the financial services institution? Which account it went to?
This would be under...
I'm reading it, and I believe the indication here from the AG that the transfer receipt did not disclose the recipient's bank number. I doubt the condition where the Auditor General is unable to otherwise confirm the bank account. I believe this is restricted to the receipt itself not having the recipient's number on the receipt itself. It's not a case where, and maybe they could indicate, I believe records were not having the recipient's number on the transfer receipt did not disclose the recipient's bank number. I doubt the condition where the Auditor General is unable to otherwise confirm the bank account. I believe this is restricted to the receipt itself not having the recipient's number on the receipt itself. It's not a case where, and maybe they could indicate, I believe records were shared with the AUGD to confirm our bank account number.
Mr. McAdam, I don't know if you can just help us on this particular one. Maybe to highlight what the concern was. Is it that the funds could have gone to a different account apart from the ODPM, and whether you were satisfied with the explanation provided by the ODPM?
Right. So at the time of the report, Chair, we asked for evidence to prove that the monies were transferred. We were provided with the transfer receipt. That receipt did not indicate the bank account number. Subsequent to that, we received the bank statements, which confirmed that the monies were transferred. So as indicated in the prompt, we confirmed that the monies were transferred in March 2026.
Okay. Okay. Members, anything on I'm moving from number 2 to anything on the number 3 with the statement of accounts and the annual report of the National Disaster Fund. And just for clarity, and this may be you, Ambassador Meade, the NDF would also have funds that would be donated by multilateral institutions, countries that may want to give donations. Would the NDF be the repository of those funds that would come from those sources?
Yeah, actually the Director General formed the Secretariat for the NDF, so him and his financial officer who is here is the chair,
okay, so they
could better answer. But
sure.
My understanding is that yes, there can be multiple sources, but it can be clarified further.
Chair, so the NDF it is possible for the NDF to accept donations. That is the bottom line up front. In this case, the operations of the fund were held separately, where it is that donations specific to Hurricane Melissa went into a donation account and not the NDF.
But what I'm trying to understand is best practice going forward. Again, you know, we don't want a weather event, but let's say we have one, and countries from across the world decide we're going to provide in cash terms, not goods and services. Where would those funds naturally go? Wouldn't it be the NDF?
No, historically, based on my short knowledge of they have gone into donation accounts. The matter you raise is something that could be discussed at the NDF committee and how to treat that going forward.
Okay.
The NDF normally is a matter of investments directly from government into that fund.
Sorry, repeat?
Normally it's investments that drive that fund. We would get a subvention for it and the monies are invested.
Okay, okay. Sorry, Mr. McAdam.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to follow up the DG's comment, one of the challenges up to this point in time is that the NDF does not have a dedicated bank account. And that was highlighted in the report.
What can go so?
Have a dedicated bank account. Challenge here. Just to follow up the DG's comment, one of the challenges up to this point in time is that the NDF does not have a dedicated bank account. And that was highlighted in the report. So that would sort of restrict the...
So that answers my question.
Yes.
Okay.
So traditionally and historically, the donations went into the donation accounts, US dollar, Jamaican dollar donation accounts, and then a decision is taken whether or not to use those funds accordingly. Since the report, I can confirm that ADPEM has taken steps to seek permission to get a dedicated bank account for the NDF. The timeline, however, was not provided for that.
Are you in a position to provide a timeline on that, Commander?
No, Chair. There are two modalities to it. We have to wait on the necessary permissions to come back, but we continue the dialogue with
You have to wait on the necessary?
Permissions.
Oh, permissions.
Having written. So we'll continue the dialogue with the entities. But just to maybe add a little bit more context to the AUG's comments, it's the operational account for which there is the matter concerning its own account. The investment accounts are very separate. So in terms of the investment accounts, those are solely for investments. This is the operational account, i.e. the cash account from which we operate on a daily basis, which has another pool of funds in there which is not being used.
No, so just what you're calling the operational account, where in the key findings 3 it says ODPEM has not established a dedicated NDF bank account as required by the DRM Act. That bank account is what you're calling the operating account?
Yes, ma'am, that's what I'm referring to.
And to date, that has not been established?
It has not been established.
Why, Mr. Chairman, in that same paragraph though, I mean, it points to a whole series. This is not an isolated element or an isolated case of non-compliance. Apart from having years without a functioning fund committee and chairman as required by Section 42 of the DRM Act, one of the alerts, I think, to the public and to Parliament is the lack of annual reports being submitted on a timely basis. And, you know, this is something that we, you know, I have commented on repeatedly in a number of committees and in the House itself, that we go many years without departments and agencies who are required under law, statutory bodies who are required under law to do annual reports. And, you know, sometimes we go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years without getting those annual reports. We see right here from 2018-19 to 2024-25, those annual reports were not prepared. Again, you know, preventing compliance with Section 42.3. Permanent Secretary, how have you tolerated this you know, habit of this total, you know, habit of non-compliance with relevant legislation?
Chairman, through you, member, very good question. I can account for the period that the agency has been with me, and as soon as these matters came to my attention, the necessary steps are being taken to address them.
So where are we now in terms of these annual reports? At the time of February, I think would have been the date that the Auditor General did their review. You still had from 2018-19 outstanding. Where are we now? Or can you give us some sort of schedule in terms of bringing these annual reports up to date?
Chairman, there are, to the best of my recollection now, 8 reports outstanding. The first 4 we have gotten some feedback on. So it's a matter of concluding the relevant corrections to those where necessary. I would indicate at this point we're trying to have those within the next 6 weeks completed and submitted to the parent ministry.
All right, let me ask a question. Is it the Ministry of Finance that is required to provide permission for the establishment of the separate account? Because, again, looking at the key findings, NDF transactions are instead commingled with the Japanese International Cooperation Agency-funded Improvement of Emergency Communication Systems project within ODPM's capital account. Although approval was sought in February 2019, 7 years ago, to open a separate account, no formal response was received. Who is the permission sought from to open the account? This is 7.5 years old. Would it be the Ministry of Finance? Rather?
It is the Ministry of Finance.
Response 7 years ago, to open a separate account, no formal response was received. Who is the permission sought from to open the account? Because this is 7.5 years old. Would it be the Ministry of Finance? Rather?
It is the Ministry of Finance, but I can't see if the law requires them to open this account. How can, you know, the Ministry of Finance say no? I mean, it would seem to me that does compliance with the law requires this account to be opened. I'm struggling.
Well, you could help us, Madam.
Right. So the request normally goes to the Accountant General as a Treasury, and then the Treasury will respond. Sometimes they seek additional information from the Ministry of Finance, but it's the Accountant General who would give that information and that approval.
I mean, it is mind-boggling for a country that has weather events every year that...
Right. So the request normally goes to the Accountant General as a Treasury, and then the Treasury will respond. Sometimes they seek additional information from the Ministry of Finance, but it's the Accountant General who would give that information and that approval.
Who is the Accountant General of the Ministry of Finance? And why are they not following the law? And why is, Nigel Clark was the finance minister at that time. I really hope that the PMP looks more into this, because, you know, the unaccounted for money, not having the receipts, although they claim to have the receipts, but then it just screams, I cannot trust this. Why isn't the government following its own laws? Why isn't the government, agencies, bodies, and individuals why are they not following their own laws that are put there to ensure accountability? Why are these loopholes appearing to be left open for abuse? And these types of laws need to have some type of monetary and prison penalty to it, so persons don't forget that they should actually do these things. Oh, you have a request from 7 years ago. Navlet. Megan. What are you doing, Megan? A long time I see Tony, you know. And Ina Young, big up. Oh, you have this happen, and it's just frustrating. The Jamaica Labour Party government just bagger. You know what I mean? Man.
I mean, it is mind-boggling for a country that has weather events every year that a request to have a dedicated account for the National Disaster Fund would not be responded to for 7.5 years.
In violation of the law.
In violation of the Disaster Risk Management Act.
Seek further information as it relates to that period and the requests.
So, Commander, you have made a more recent new request?
Yes, Chair, we have.
When was that request made?
Earlier this month or late last month? I'll have to double check the dates.
Okay. I mean, this unless I'm missing something, this one seems inexplicable, quite frankly. It's to open a dedicated account for the National Disaster Fund to prevent commingling with another project that is funded by a donor agency. I can't see why this would not have been done a very, very long time ago. And, yeah, I would ask you to provide an update on that issue in writing back to the committee. I don't expect you to be back here in person, but you can send your response to the committee.
Noted, Chair.
All right. Any other questions on the key finding number 3? If not, let's move to key finding number 4. The roof and procurement suppliers without PPC or TCC certification. Again, I know we were working within the confines of an emergency, but I noticed there was no response provided on this particular issue, Commander.
I believe, Chair, we would have provided a response in the initial matter to AUGD, where it is that we would have relied on guidance note number 2, 2025, issued by the Ministry of Finance on 12 November last year, pertaining to how we should treat with those matters. Prescriptively, the contractor in this matter would have fell within the necessary guidelines that allowed for us to offer them the contract.
Without the TCC and the PPC?
Without, at the time, having had it, because they would have had it within the, I believe, the guidelines within the last 12 months.
Okay, so it's just that at the particular time of the awarding of the contracts, they may have been out of date or had not renewed it.
Indeed, Chair, but they would have had, as per the guidelines, within the prescribed period prior to the award of the contract.
Okay. All right. Well, that should have been, I was going to ask, was that provided to you?
Well, it's here the last line. Well, sorry.
No, the Auditor General's report has it in it. I think it's there.
Sorry, Chair, it's actually in the report.
Yes.
Usually we would include a summary in the report at a glance, highlighting the specific finding, whether or not it meets the criteria, doesn't meet the criteria, or it partially met the criteria. In this case, we indicated in the report that this met the criteria.
Okay. Right. All right. It's just the prompt. Maybe the prompt was misleading to us.
No,
it said no response provided.
No, but this is in relation to PAC. The response here is
in the agency
report.
It's in the agency report.
All right.
Right. So recall, Chair, before a report is tabled, a response would be provided.
No, I know. Well, maybe there was an oversight in the prompt, so let me accept that there was an oversight in the prompt.
Right.
Because what is here said no response was provided, but you're saying the report has it, all right? So we accept that. Okay, all right. Member Brown, yeah.
Yes, I understand the provision, as was mentioned, guidance note number 2, which allows for the incorporation or inclusion of those suppliers who would not have satisfied neither the Public Procurement Commission certification or TCC. I am a little bit, one of the suppliers, supplier number 3, I believe, the value though was 56 million. So while I understand the provision is there which permits engagement of non-registered or tax non-compliant suppliers, is it, the first question to ODPEM, is it that we had a shortage of suppliers who would have met the criteria of compliance, why we had to seek this extraordinary requests and permission as granted through the Finance Ministry?
I believe at the material time, Chair, the quantity of material that we're trying to source, it would have been hard to get it from, it ended up being in lots, and this provider was able to provide that requested amount. I believe there were 4 other suppliers involved in the arrangement, and we had that from the quantity of material that we're trying to source. It would have been hard to get it from, it ended up being in lots, and this provider was able to provide that requested amount. I believe there were 4 other suppliers involved in the arrangement, and we had to, as the circumstance required, get in the material very quickly. Hence, we would have chosen to go in that direction. They could have provided what was required.
Okay. Member Miller, I see your mic. Was it on before, or you have a specific question here?
Yes, Chair. What, in light that these suppliers didn't have their TCC and PPC, what due diligence did ODPEM carry out to ensure that they were able to provide what is required?
So these providers would have been notable providers based on our due diligence, and would have also ensured that they would have in the last 12 months also, they would have had the necessary documentation in order to supply the materials required. Sure.
All right. Key finding number 5, delivery verification and payment documentation deficiencies. Again, in our prompt, Mr. McAdam, it says no response provided, but what did you receive a response in your report?
So, Chair, in the prompt, this is referring to the response to the PAC. So, just for clarity. In doing the report, we received responses.
To your satisfaction?
No, that's why it's in the report.
Okay. So the verification says the outstanding signed delivery slips or good received notes, 34 million, were not presented. The relevant payment documentation for contracting commitments totaling 167.3 were presented and verified. Is there an issue, or what is the issue in providing the documentation for the 34 million?
These are pertinent to countersigned receipts, Chair. I believe might have been as a case of not having wanted to, having noted and confirmed both through internal and external means that the goods were indeed presented, not having to want to then go back on the same receipts and then do a countersign much later than on the prescribed date. But they were reviewed.
How would you have verified that they were in fact delivered?
So through an internal check, and also through the third party who would have also received the goods at hand.
Okay.
So the receipt.
When you say third party, the prompt says it's to the JDF locations.
As in the usual concept is that both ODPEM representative and the representative from the Jamaica Defence Force, i.e. the third party, would countersign the goods delivered. I believe it was on two occasions, operational circumstances that prevented the ODPEM from having been on site at the time of delivery. But through internal and external checks, i.e. with the JDF and also to our own systems, we did
what can go so?
I know you're not the operational circumstances that prevented the ODPEM from having been on site at the time of delivery. But through internal and external checks, i.e. with the JDF and also to our own systems, we did verify that the goods would have been delivered to the site.
So I know you're not here representing the JDF, but I think both yourself and the Permanent Secretary have a little familiarity with that organization. Is it usual that they would accept supplies delivered and somebody not sign for it into a JDF facility?
So to be clear, Chairman, the document was signed as having received
By
the JDF.
By the JDF.
By the JDF. What didn't occur was that the ODPEM representative was not there at the material time.
Well, that's not what the prompt says, though. It says, goods received note counted. The remaining 34 million was not supported by signed delivery slips or goods received notes countersigned by ODPEM or a JDF representative. That I am reading that to say that neither an ODPEM nor a JDF representative verified those deliveries. So maybe that's my reading of it.
And it says leaving those deliveries unverified.
Unverified. So my interpretation of that plain English sentence is that neither a JDF representative nor an ODPEM representative could verify those deliveries.
Clear here, Chairman, in how it's written, but I can indicate that the documentation that was presented did have the signature of the...
Well, can you, Mr. McAdam, can you then provide some clarity on that for me?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As indicated in the prompt, as well as in the report, in our review, we found approximately $88.6 million worth of supplies were indeed acknowledged. However, the remaining 34 million, we didn't see where those were acknowledged by either JDF or ODPEM.
Commander,
can go so.
What the Auditor General is saying is different from what you are saying. You said you feel confident based on your internal checks that they were in fact received, but the evidence has not been provided to the Auditor General to their satisfaction on the 34 million.
Right, so Chair, what I will do, I'll have the document as I saw it presented. But as indicated, there were physical checks subsequently to the matter at hand, and we are confident that even with if the document didn't exist, that the delivery was made to the Jamaica Defence Force.
All right, but again, for the purposes of the Auditor General, whatever supporting documentation you have, you need to provide it to them so that this issue can be closed out.
We should do that, Chair.
Member Cousins?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. I am noting that the relevant payment documentation for contract commitments were totaled $167 million. I'm seeing where the delivery verification was roughly $122.5 million. So I just want some clarification, perhaps from the Auditor General's Department, whether or not there was $167 million that was paid to the suppliers, but only $122 million verified thus far. If that is the case, then what is the situation of the balance between both?
All right, so just for the sake of completeness, that 167 million has actually been verified based on information in the prompt. So ODPEM provided...
Mr. McAdam, I think the issue we're having then, maybe I don't know if the prompts are up to date and reflective of your current status, because what is here says something different.
No, Chair. If you look on the thing that says verification, it says the relevant payment documentation for contract commitments totaling 167.3.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
Right.
So what I want to be clear on is whether or not the suppliers received this 167 million.
So at the time of the audit, the expenditure was classified into payments and commitments. So at the time, we saw payments of approximately 26.2 million and commitments of approximately 141 million. Subsequent to the report, we have seen the payments for all 167 million.
Okay. And so having confirmed that 167 million was paid, we're only seeing $122 million worth of goods delivered thus far, based on the report.
At the time of the audit, only 122 was delivered.
Oh, so perfect. So the question now turns to the Permanent Secretary and ODPEM. Have you now received the entire amount of goods and services totaling 167 million?
Chair, through you, yes. So this is the basis on which the payment is actually made. Payments are made post-delivery and confirmation of delivery of the goods.
And this was delivered to the JDF offices and countersigned by both
as
JDF
earlier, Chair,
and ODPEM representative?
Based on my records, there were 2 instances in which they weren't countersigned.
And this information was provided to the, as a response, perhaps, having been a live issue coming out of the audit, did you seek to provide an update to the Auditor General's Department as it relates to the difference that was not yet delivered but has since been delivered? And if that's not the case, then perhaps we would love, Chairman, for ODPEM to provide us with some further documentation and verification of this. That's important. It's extremely important. Because even though the audit, it is a live issue when you look at the audit. Right? It's a live issue. And therefore I believe that through you, Chairman, we need some further information on this, because this is very important. We're looking at roughly $50 million. That's it. Between 122 and 167 is about what? 43 million dollars worth of goods and services. Goods, really, because it's materials. And having regard to the previous issues that were highlighted by the Auditor General as it relates to the 122 and the outstanding.
Speak closer to the mic so we can.
As it relates to the 122 that was previously verified, and the issues that arose from that audit, we'd love to get some further and better particulars as it relates to this additional $43 million worth of goods that were delivered to the JDF's offices.
Yeah. Anything else, Member Cousins? You're on number 5. No, he's on number 5.
That's the Chairman.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
People, go check out the rest of that meeting that was said. Very interesting. A lot of clarity on certain issues regarding the Auditor General report and the responses where Support Jamaica website is concerned, and then also the rules program, the donation, the materials that came in, materials that were bought, and stuff like that. So, like and share the video, right? That is it. This government is a scandalous and it's nauseating. That's what happens when you don't trust them, They have not given us a reason to trust them. So, inherently, we become suspicious of every little thing. It's their fault. If they were operating with transparency and had they had the reputation to do so, we would not be so skeptical about the government of Jamaica. But wait a minute, what is happening here? A new update. What is this? Resumption of Government Service Center Initiative calls for a more transformative vision for Jamaica economy. Is this a new post? Wow, this is a new post. This was like 57 minutes ago. I wonder if they put out an actual video. Interesting. Let me share it on my Facebook. Alright. I can't do everything in one live stream, so it is what it is. Alright, so ladies and gentlemen, how will I do this? Jamaica tighten up laws, and now I'm going to touch upon that. Alright, this definitely have to go to. This one, definitely. Yeah, I'm just going to do one video with these. First, I'm going to start with this article. Ooh, what does that matter go? Yeah, here we go. Wonderful. So I'm going to start with these. Thank God they're very short articles. Yeah, we can start with the two of them. And then we go to that. Alright, wonderful. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, it's your brother Bolo VNR, and we're here with another reaction. I want you guys to like and share the video. Thank you very much. Alright, let's go to this article. It says Jamaica to tighten laws on Molly and other synthetic drugs amid rising seizures. Rising seizures. Whoa. Ladies and gentlemen, watch your children. Pray for them. Don't do drugs.
Iglina classifieds mobile apps. Jamaica is to get tougher on tackling synthetic drugs such as Mali as it seeks to combat drug trafficking. The government is to modernize Jamaica's drug laws to address the issue. The matter was among those discussed at last Thursday's meeting of the National Security Council, which is chaired by Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness. A government statement indicated that the council approved recommendations to modernize Jamaica's drug laws by bringing new psychoactive substances, commonly known as synthetic or designer drugs, within the scope of existing legislation. It said the decision follows an increase in the seizure of synthetic drugs, including substances marketed as Mali. The government said the move is intended to ensure that Jamaica's legal framework keeps pace with rapidly evolving narcotics. Synthetic drugs represent one of the fastest growing threats to citizen security and public health, said Holness. Criminal organizations continually modify these substances to evade the law. Our legislation must evolve just as rapidly to ensure Jamaica has the legal tools necessary to protect our people, particularly our young people. The government said it will amend the relevant legislation to enable emerging psychoactive substances to be rapidly designated and controlled before they become established in Jamaica.
This is a good thing, but it's like 7 years too late. They should have been done that. They should have been done that. You understand? Letter of the day. Patching potholes not enough. We must understand why roads fail. Alright? Let's read, ladies and gentlemen. Let us read. Whoa.
The editor, Madam. Anyone who drives on Jamaica's roads has likely experienced the frustration of seeing the same pothole repaired more than once. A few months later, or sometimes after a heavy shower of rain, it reappears. This raises an important question: are we addressing the underlying causes of road deterioration or only repairing the visible damage? Before a pothole is repaired, it is useful to ask why the road failed. Was poor drainage allowing water to weaken the pavement? Was the road constructed on unstable ground? Has heavy truck traffic exceeded the road's design capacity? Or has the pavement simply reached the end of its service life? Understanding the cause of failure helps engineers select the most appropriate repair method. Where the underlying problem is identified and addressed, repairs are more likely to last longer and provide better value for money. If the root cause is not identified, repairs may provide only temporary improvement while the underlying problem remains. Road maintenance is about more than filling potholes. Each damaged section of road provides valuable information that can help improve future designs, maintenance practices, construction methods, and material selection. This process is often described as organizational learning, where experience and evidence are used to improve future decisions. By investigating failures, documenting their causes, and applying the lessons learned to future projects, road agencies can continually strengthen maintenance programs and improve the long-term performance of the road network. As Jamaica continues to invest in its road infrastructure, understanding the causes of pavement deterioration can help ensure that maintenance resources are used effectively and that investments deliver the greatest possible long-term value. The public benefits from roads that are safer, more durable, and provide good value for money. A pothole is more than a defect in the pavement. It is also an opportunity to understand how and why the road deteriorated. By learning from each failure before carrying out repairs, we can support better maintenance decisions and contribute to a stronger and more resilient road network for the future.
Common sense, but I don't know if the Jamaica Labour Party is going to apply such common sense. You understand? But let's go to the next article. Government to undertake program to target trauma violence in Hurricane Melissa affected areas. Let's read, ladies and gentlemen. Let's read.
Government to undertake program to target trauma, violence in Hurricane Melissa affected areas. 1 minute read. The government is to provide greater psychosocial support to families in several Hurricane Melissa-affected communities amid increasing psychological trauma, domestic violence, and interpersonal conflict. The decision was taken at a meeting of the National Security Council, which is chaired by Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness. The meeting was held last Thursday. A government statement said the council reviewed evidence of increasing psychological trauma, domestic violence, and interpersonal conflict in several Hurricane Melissa-affected communities. The statement did not provide specific details. The government indicated that the council approved the development of a coordinated national program to expand trauma counseling, community mental health services, family intervention programs, and violence prevention initiatives in the most affected areas. Holness said the government remains committed to supporting families that are still recovering. Recovery is not measured only by the number of homes rebuilt or roads repaired. We must also heal the invisible wounds left by disaster. Addressing trauma is essential to restoring families, strengthening communities, and preventing violence from taking root in the aftermath of crisis.
This is PR, this is fluff. Ladies and gentlemen, what is causing the trauma is the lack of help that the government has given to the most vulnerable. The people have been left in the type of environments that, you know, it doesn't matter how resilient they are to wake up and look around and remember the trauma that you faced. People supposed to have PTSD because of it look the same. The tarpaulins, it's there, it's all reminders. But he talk about giving greater support for trauma. How about preventing the trauma and lessening the trauma and raising up people's spirits by helping them to put a roof over their head? I'm telling you, that would be a great antidote and a great pill to lessen the trauma from these people so they can come to some type of normality. You understand? Speaking about coming back to normality, the People's National Party representatives that are not the government and don't have the government resources have been doing this since the hurricane with the little resources that they have to their disposal. The kitchen that became a home, 71-year-old and 71-year-old onto home 9 months after the storm. So this is one of the victims of the government, ladies and gentlemen. Right? This man is one of the victims of the government. 9 months after the storm, his roof, his kitchen became his home. Let me go to the clip right here. The pictures right here, I'll show you. See? Here it is. See? And this man has a walker. He walk with a walker. And this is the thing I'm talking about. Nobody is saying that the government will be able to help everybody in 9 months. But why is it that you're not focusing on the most vulnerable people? This man, his man have a walking stick, him 71-year-old for crying out loud. There's too many cases of this coming up in the news. And you know what they say? If there's whatever amount that's coming in the news, you can guarantee say it's more than 300% more that's actually out there. Unfortunately, because most people don't want to be in the news. They don't want people to see them in the States, so they suffer in silence. So Andrew talk about trauma. These people are suffering in silence, and the government have money that them sit down upon and don't use it all now. And people want to make excuses for these evil, wicked people. I'm not going to tolerate it on my platform. You know? Anybody will make excuse to the government, me a black on them. Straight. Me a black on the regime. You understand? This is foolishness. Let's read a little bit of the article, ladies and gentlemen, because it's long. I mean,
Edgar Bruce makes his way out the church, climbing down a ledge. Western Bureau. The neatly made bed occupies one side of the kitchen at the empty Matthews Church of the Nazarene in Logwood, Shrewsbury, Westmoreland. On the other are cupboards, pots and cooking utensils. It is an unlikely bedroom, but for the past 9 months, it has been home to 71-year-old Edgar Bruce, whose house collapsed during the passage of Hurricane Melissa. Each night, Bruce, who lost his right leg to diabetes and is blind in one eye, settles into the modest space that members of the congregation quietly surrendered after the devastating storm swept away the home they had built for him. "I didn't save anything," Bruce recalled softly.
So not only did he lose, not only does he have a leg, but he's blind in one eye. Who is doing the assessments to the roof program? Why are so many of these people? Why wasn't there a targeted approach for the most vulnerable? Yes, take the names of everybody else, but focus on the most vulnerable. Use the people and the council them, work with the opposition like they had asked. Go out, hire people, get the job done so you get the full assessment of everybody. And then you filter the most vulnerable and get them the help right away. If you guys had done that as the government, I would have minimal criticism. Minimum, and I can't. There's no way you can tell me that persons that have PhDs and all of these things that what my brain doesn't work more than them. And we've been saying this for months. And a man like Colin Bell has been giving these. A lot of vloggers have been pouring in ideas, and the government has been careless and just uncaring and evil towards the people of Jamaica. Right? I mean, I don't want to go more in that article because, trust me, the man said I didn't. Why me I tell you, man? Oh.
Softly. Just a bed alone, and it was all over in water. His survival was nothing short of miraculous. As torrential rain and hurricane force winds battered the rural community last October, Bruce remained inside his small wooden house until it became clear it could no longer withstand Melissa's fury. Sensing the danger, he called to a nephew who lived nearby in a concrete house. The rescue came just in time. His nephew pulled him to safety moments before the house crashed to the ground. "As we come out, the building just fell," Bruce said, still sounding amazed months later. Nothing inside could be salvaged. The following day, after briefly staying with his nephew, Bruce made the slow journey with his walker to the nearby church, where dozens of residents had sought refuge from the storm. All eventually returned home. Bruce never did. Today, the kitchen has become his bedroom. His bed occupies one section of the room, while the cupboards and cooking area remain on the other. During church functions, members have largely taken meal preparation outside rather than disturb the elderly congregant whose circumstances have made the room his home. Contrary to suggestions that the church wants him to leave, Minister Jacqueline Clark said the congregation has continued to support Bruce while recognizing his desire to return to his own home. The church had built him a house already with a bathroom, and Melissa come and blow it down, Clark explained. She said members had helped him begin rebuilding after the hurricane, but like Bruce, many families in Lockwood were themselves struggling to recover. Recalling the devastation. "Every board house in here was flat," she said, recalling the devastation Hurricane Melissa inflicted on the farming community. Even concrete houses lost their roofs, leaving residents with little capacity to assist others despite their willingness to do so. "Everybody loved him," Clark added. "Everybody would want to help." Community member Pansy, who has known Bruce for years, said the church has continued to accommodate him without complaint, even though his presence means the kitchen can no longer function as it once did. She described Bruce as an industrious man who spent much of his life driving taxis, doing construction work, then taking on carpentry jobs. "He was a handyman for himself," she said. Bruce confirmed her account, explaining that before diabetes changed his life, he earned a living wherever work could be found. "I was a driver," taxi driver, and I used to do construction work, he said. When one is slow, I move to another just to make a living. Years of diabetes eventually claimed his right leg. He also lost the sight in his left eye. Devastating blow. Then came another devastating blow. His son, the one person helping him build his home, was killed in a motor vehicle crash. The one that was my heartbeat, Bruce said quietly. He was the one that helped me in the beginning of making the house. Without him, rebuilding became almost impossible. Today, the frame of Bruce's new house stands on the same property where Melissa destroyed the last one. Friends and neighbors have donated some materials, while volunteers have managed to raise sections of the structure. But there the work stopped. Bruce still needs lumber, capping, plywood and other materials before a roof can be completed and the house made habitable. His greatest frustration, however, is not simply the lack of building supplies. Has received nothing. Bruce said he registered for government assistance after the hurricane, providing officials with the required information and identification documents. Yet months later, he says he has received nothing after reportedly being told there had been a problem related to GPS information in the system. Until his circumstances change, everyday tasks remain an exercise in determination. Armed with his walker, Bruce makes the journey to the main road whenever he needs to catch public transportation to medical appointments or other errands. Drivers help lift the walker into vehicles before returning it to him when he reaches his destination. Despite everything he has lost, his home, his leg, his eyesight, his son and his livelihood, Bruce has not lost his faith. Every Wednesday, he joins the church's fasting service. I get more from fasting service than even the regular service on a Sunday, he said. I always love fasting. His story has already begun to stir compassion beyond the hills of Logood. United States-based Jamaican philanthropist Anthony Turner, organizer of the annual Vibes in the Poconos event in Pennsylvania, has pledged $50,000 Jamaican towards the purchase of building materials to help with the rebuilding effort. Turner, whose ninth staging of the event was held on July 9, said the contribution was simply the right thing to do. This was the least I could do, he said. I hope when others read about his plight they will respond. It is obvious Bruce is not a lazy man, he was industrious before his illness. For Bruce, whose bed still occupies one corner of the empty Matthew's Church of the Nazarene's kitchen, every sheet of plywood and every piece of lumber now represents something more than a building material. It represents the possibility that, after surviving Hurricane Melissa and spending 9 months sleeping in borrowed space, he may finally find his way home.
I'm glad I read the article. So the article also confirms that the man got nothing from the government. Something about GPS problems. Really? You see, this is what I'm talking about, you know. This is what I'm talking about. It's very frustrating. I'm not going to lie to you. It burns my soul. I'm telling you. On the other hand, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, the People's National Party, you know, these things don't really get talked about a lot, but I want to big up the Rasta from St. James, you know. He never win him seat, you know. New home, new hope for single father and twin. Let's read. Let's read, ladies and gentlemen.
Iglina Classifieds Mobile Apps. Western Bureau. 9 months after Hurricane Melissa destroyed several homes in Flanker, St. James, a United States-based philanthropic organization has stepped forward, investing thousands of US dollars to help vulnerable residents rebuild their homes. One of the beneficiaries of the Grassroots Community Foundation's generosity is Theodore Notice, who became a single father raising twin boys after their mother died. Earlier this year, he received the keys to a one-bedroom, concrete studio apartment, replacing the one-room board house he lost to the Category 5 hurricane. In an interview with the Gleaner on Friday, Notice recalled the emotional toll of losing his home and all its contents. To be honest, it was devastating. It was traumatizing, he said. I was wondering if I would be able to take the next step or the next move in rebuilding a roof over my head. Notice, who works in construction and also does part-time interior cleaning services, said his greatest concern in the immediate aftermath of the hurricane was the well-being of his children, not the furniture he managed to salvage. However, after receiving the keys to his new home as the first beneficiary of the Grassroots Community Foundation's housing initiative, he is now looking to the future with optimism. It's heartwarming. It's a good feeling, said Notice, who explained that the new concrete home has given his family a sense of security that was lacking in their previous dwelling. Yes, I do feel much safer now in this concrete home. The Grassroots Community Foundation, led by Jamaica-born sociologist Dr. Janice Johnson-Diaz, plans to construct 10 homes for families whose houses were destroyed by the hurricane. We can't ask people to focus on literacy if they don't have places to live, said Johnson-Diaz, whose foundation is also heavily invested in education.
You can't expect to help people with trauma if they don't have a roof over their head. And that goes back to the article when we read for Andrew Wallace. And you know, oh boy, man, I tell you, say, this guy, man, this guy. Oh, this guy is something else. Recovery is not measured by only the number of homes rebuilt and roads repaired. We must also heal the invisible wounds left by the disaster. Brother, you have to start with the household by people ahead. You have to start with the house over the people's head. I tell you, yeah, man. Let's continue. Over there. Right, us.
Education. Our literacy work in Flanker was interrupted by the hurricane, so rebuilding homes became the immediate priority. 5-year investment. The housing initiative forms part of the Foundation's broader 5-year investment in St. James, which includes literacy programs, renovations to the St. James Parish Library, and a girls' leadership development program. According to Johnson-Diaz, Notice family was selected as the first recipient largely because he is a single parent raising 2 young boys. Very soon those boys will be teenagers. If they do not have a safe place to live and their father remains under that kind of pressure, they become vulnerable to the very social problems we are trying to prevent, she said. The construction of each house costs approximately $50,000, covering construction, labor, and finishing costs. 7 of the 10 homes are expected to be completed before the first anniversary of Hurricane Melissa in October. However, Johnson-Diaz acknowledged that the remaining 3 homes, which are to be constructed in a rugged area known as Cuba, present a greater challenge because of the terrain and the larger number of residents requiring accommodation. The last 3 homes are going to cost more because of the labor involved and the difficult location. Funding will determine how quickly we can complete those, she said, noting that a fundraising campaign is planned for later this year. Johnson-Diaz said the foundation deliberately selected families with multiple children in order to maximize the impact of the intervention. We wanted to support the families that were most vulnerable and where rebuilding would make the greatest difference to children's lives, she explained. Although many of the homes are located on captured land, Johnson-Diaz said the foundation proceeded on the understanding that beneficiaries would continue working with the relevant authorities to regularize their tenure. Our role is simply to provide safe shelter, she said. We expect residents to comply with whatever legal processes are required. This is our gift to them, but the responsibility for resolving land issues remains theirs.
Can you imagine if the government come lick down their house there? Because they never on government, man. Remember, so they never on a rampage forward here. But let's continue. Again, causing trauma.
Theirs. The housing program is funded primarily through donations from supporters in the United States, supplemented by contributions from organizations including the Idris Elba Foundation and the Black Lives Matter Foundation. Johnson Diaz, who was born in Retreat, St. Mary, said the project reflects her belief that lasting community transformation requires sustained investment rather than short-term disaster relief. Many organizations come in after a disaster and leave. We recognize that if you truly want to change communities, you have to stay, she said. Johnson Diaz also stated that while the housing initiative addresses immediate needs, the foundation will continue investing in literacy by strengthening programs in Flanker, supporting the rehabilitation of the St. James Parish Library, and expanding opportunities for children through reading, leadership development, and digital literacy. The future of Jamaica depends on investing in young people, she said. Providing safe homes gives families stability. From there, children can begin to dream, to read, to learn, and to build a different future.
Big up Johnson Diaz, yeah, man. Seeing, and big up the Mr. Allen Bernard. Seeing the nice picture with the people, them. Yeah, man. Big them up, man. Holy for respect and manners. Glad for them, you know. This is where them come from. And this is where they're at. You understand? At least a solid roof over their head. That is the greatest. Alright? Now, Zulika, just ladies and gentlemen, has also impacted her constituency, and also Miss Heather Miller. Mrs. Heather Miller. Check this out. I'm not sure about the music, so a container home here was presented to them. This family that also lost everything, you know what I mean? See the baby there, see the, you know, people I'm grateful that we don't really hear what them say, just the music and the beat. Still some retrofitting to do, but much better than the situation that they were in. And you know, knowing the people, they're more than likely to build upon this as time goes by. So big up the partners, them, big up Miss Heather Miller Bennett. Alright, Mrs. Heather Miller Bennett, big her up. And you know, with the limited resources again, the People's National Party continue. The members continue to put their best foot forward for the people. Here's another video. This one is from Zulika, just ladies and gentlemen.
So today we are in Govt. This is house number 6 that I am actually having delivered. So in the roughly 6 months since I've been Member of Parliament, we have managed to deliver 6 homes. So 6 in 6. That is more than some people have delivered in their 5 years. So the truth is, a lot of people talk about action, or some people talk about action. But this right here, this is action, not a bag of mouth. This is progress.
He cleared every shadow around.
Shots fired, ladies and gentlemen. Shots fired. Shots fired. One, Zulika just, you know, never two. And you see our team, Mr. Elder, they were beside her. Remember me tell you. And them say on the ground. So, pray for good MP, them ladies and gentlemen, and the people in St. Elizabeth again, you see. And all around Jamaica. You see, if you not engage and I entertain witchcraft, you know, see some this is here, I'm going to repent. Because, you no matter how good an MP is, an MP can't go save you. You hear me say? And ladies and gentlemen, just for Just for the fun of it, check this out.
Allow me to reintroduce myself.
So Zulika just with the new haircut, ladies and gentlemen. Only know me stay, me love me MP them. The one them where I do the work. You understand? And Zulika just is definitely one of those standout MPs. And you see her with the new haircut? Yes. Big up Zulika just, ladies and gentlemen. Me love her either way, haircut or hair long. Big up yourself, yeah, mama. She said in the caption here that in politics you quickly learn to carry everyone's expectation, fears and demands. Somewhere along the way you forget yourself. This haircut is more than a change in style. It is a slow, quiet step back to myself. It is a reminder that I am allowed to shed dead weight, set new boundaries and step away from things that jeopardize peace. It is about having the courage to also choose yourself, even while choosing others. So, yes, MP and all the other MPs. So now we have to do that. We have to take care of ourselves because we don't want to go break down in the mat. Very important. In my first 6 months as MP, I delivered 6 houses to persons in need. I don't always post and publish, but I am always working for you. Congratulations to Cooley from Grovetown on receiving this house. The work continues. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this again solidifies my point. Splash, did you big up yourself? This again solidifies my point about working with the MPs, ladies and gentlemen. Right? If you work with the MPs, then you will be able to ascertain and target the most vulnerable with precision, especially the MPs that are working hard in their constituency and the councillor them. You cannot separate and do things on your own as the government in a crisis and then expect that there isn't going to be gaps and loopholes in the effectiveness of the effort. In this case, it has just been a poor effort by the government, and it is on purpose. They did it on purpose, ladies and gentlemen. They sure did. Alright? And if you don't believe me, I'm going to continue to play this clip right here for the people.
The word of the Lord. Hear the word of the Lord, Jamaica. Hear the word of the Lord. The plan is to make things as difficult as possible for the people by not supporting them in any serious, significant, or sustainable way, with the hope that in frustration they would move away and go somewhere, go live with their family, find somewhere else, so that they would not have the problem or the responsibility to relocate them. So it's a waiting game. I hear the Lord saying it's a waiting game. So yes, you touch a little there and you touch a little there. Nothing significant. Nothing sustainable. And the hope is that with the hardship, with the difficulty, and the nigh impossible situations that would confront the people, they would leave in frustration. Can't bother. Just pack up whatever little they have, and most have lost everything. And whatever little they have, it is damaged. But they will just pack up and just go somewhere. Pack up and maybe each up with family, each area. So that those communities, those areas would be left vacant. So the authorities can take them over. Hear the word of the Lord. But I'm here to say today that strategy is not going to work. The Lord is going to allow it to blow up in their faces. And God is also going to judge them as a result of it.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. It is intentional, thus saith the Lord. Andrew Holness's government is doing this on purpose. They want to frustrate the people so the people just leave their property, leave their homes, and can't bother talking about the government to to undertake program to target trauma violence in Hurricane Melissa, as if they care about the people. Hypocrites. He's a hypocrite, ladies and gentlemen. And God is revealing the ugly truth. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Like, share, and subscribe. The word is love. Guys, that's my time. I not even want to spend 1 minute over. Alright? I did 2 live streams in a space of 4 hours. In a space of about 5 hours. I need a break. And those are the topics that I came to talk about. I will be here later on tonight on Bolo VNR 2.0. For those that watch the replay, check me at 10:30 p.m. Alright? Big up on yourself. And for those on TikTok, subscribe to my YouTube page, Bolo VNR 2.0. The link is in the bio. And see you guys on YouTube. The TikTokers come over to YouTube 10:30 p.m. tonight. Alright? Big up on yourself. See you guys later. The word is love. Thanks for the gifts. Thanks for the likes. Thanks for the support. Bless you all. Alright? The word is love.